Kathleen Curtis. I'm in Wynn, Michigan to talk about maple syrup, but more importantly to talk with my dad, Stanley Curtis, about the farm and maple syrup and growing up making it. The farm here at our farm, Dad's farm, I think of it as your farm, still, is a lot different than what you think about in the great Midwest. They're smaller farms, smaller fields that are broke up by beautiful forests. I like that all of our woods are called something different. The woods that we use, or that you've used my whole life, is the sugar woods back behind the farm. It has about 1,000 taps.
Right.
The unique thing about Curtis Sugar Bush for me is that it's not made like the ones you see in Vermont where people come through on tours. It's all wood-fired. It's wood that my family cuts. My dad cuts wood all winter, summer long. This is an 83-year-old man who 6 months ago had a stroke, and he still goes out and chops his own wood. Thankfully, he had chopped most of the wood for this year. They usually go through between 17 and 18 cords of wood per season. When my father had his stroke in October, one of the things that people assumed that he wouldn't make maple syrup this year. He wants to make syrup on, I think he says, for 9 decades. So that means he has another 6 years to go. He started when he was 6 years old. It was started by my grandfather, Oscar Curtis, and then my dad started doing it, and he's now 83. My father's generation, you worked until the work is done. It really is the greatest generation. It's that generation of farmers and others, but farmers who got up and milked cows at 5 in the morning, and from my dad's case, then went to work and had a full-time job, and then came home and milked cows, and then boiled sap all night because it was a commitment. We made Curtis Sugar Bush, and if you're going to make maple syrup, you make maple syrup. That old saying of you make hay when the sun shines, you make maple syrup when the trees run. And you might be dead tired, but if the trees run, then you boil. And if you boil all night till it's done. One of my father's favorite stories is the time that he and his father boiled sap for 54 hours straight with no breaks. So you don't turn it off. It goes until it's finished. That's a work ethic that you just don't have. There's no punching a clock. There's no done everything I need to do. They needed to get something done. They found a way to make it happen. For my father, he never even thought about it as work. It was a way of life. It's something he loves to do. It really is, it takes you back to, like everybody now talks about the entrepreneurial spirit. And to me, this generation, the greatest generation, they were entrepreneurs before we even decided to define what entrepreneurs are. The only year that we didn't do syrup was the year that my mom passed away, and she passed away right in the beginning of syrup season. They were going to tap that weekend. So this was almost 5 years ago to the day. That year none of us could do syrup. Thought about it, but didn't tap. My mother and my grandmother they were sort of the CEO and the CFO of the syrup business, in that they got everybody around, and my dad boiled, but it was really my grandmother and my mother who then took it from the evaporator and put it into bottles. They did all of the bottling and the selling, and it was their spending money. That was the reason that they kept it going for so many years, is that was my mom and my grandmother's go-to-town money, they would call it. My father always used to say, if you're honest, you don't have to worry about catching yourself. You don't have to worry that what you said isn't quite the truth. Honesty, hard work, truthfulness. Yeah, I learned all that from my dad. Where is it going to go once my father goes? hopefully another 10, 15 years. I don't know. Story keeps going. A new generation comes in. We have great-grandchildren now helping out. I hope that in 30 years, my nieces and nephews, my dad's grandchildren and great-grandchildren are out there boiling and telling the same stories that my father has told over and over again about gathering and boiling. And I don't know. So that's the Sugar Bush story. That's our Sugar Bush story. That's my dad's story. That's my story.